Thank you so much for coming to our last in our three-part Let's Talk Tech series called Digital Guardrails, Protecting Your Child's Healthy Development and Well-Being. I'm Kelly Herbert. I am the chair of Crestsview's PTO that goes by the name of Reach Out Crestview, or ROCV. With me tonight is also Haley Lott, who is the president of the Foothills PTO, who has been jointly collaborating with us on this series. And we really appreciate it. It was not something that we could have done on our own. So tonight, we have a great presentation for you. Returning again tonight, we have Tracy Markle with Digital Media Treatment and Education Center. She's been our speaker for the last two events, but also with her tonight is Savannah Wetherington. She's with an affiliate company of Tracy's that goes by the name of Collegiate Coaching Services. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves in more detail and pass it over to Tracy. But thank you so much for joining us.
All right. I love my talking stick. We're going to pass this around and everybody is going to have to talk tonight. Share your feelings, talk about how you feel about technology and your children. I think you might have a lot of feelings about that. Hence why you're here. I feel like out of the three talks, this is one of the most important ones. So thank you for coming. And we get asked the most questions about this talk, which is, what do I do? How do I set up devices to protect my child? How do I keep them from playing that video game? How do I manage this? So we're hoping tonight is, if you're not already doing this, it'll help create a bit of a roadmap for you to figure out good steps to do this. Savannah here knows a lot more than I do, hence why she's here on the technical matters as far as the apps, the inside and out of certain apps that we really like and that we've spent a lot of time vetting. So we'll get there shortly. So like Kelly said, I'm Tracy Markle, and I created Digital Media Treatment and Education Center in 2015 after seeing a number of parents coming into my office complaining of their kids playing video games. And that was about in 2008, 2009. And for those of you who didn't hear me say this in the first talk, the first smart device came out in 2007. So we were just starting to see issues with technology and applications at that time. And with my company, Collegiate Coaching, we were doing coaching, but we were seeing a number of young people struggling with more significant, severe issues like aggression and violence, punching holes in the wall when mom would turn off the video game. So we created a treatment arm, which is why I'm here today. And the center provides a lot of education like this, clinical consultation, and trainings for clinicians, because there's not nearly enough of us who know really how to recognize this or how to treat this. So I'm going to just do a little reminder in case you were not here in the first talk. And don't worry, I'm not upset with you. I honestly only recognize like two faces because I don't remember faces or names very well at all. So bear with me. There are 5 types of digital media overuse. And these are the 5 types that we commonly see young people struggle with and older people alike. These are all developed to be immersive in nature and to change the way we think, feel, and act. So the way they're designed is to get us hooked and keep us coming back for more, and they're all highly rewarding. So when you hear us talk about the digital guardrails tonight, we're talking about these 5 in particular. Now keep in mind, these are umbrella terms. There's a lot that falls underneath. We'll cover a few of those, but we all know video gaming. This is often internet video gaming that are the most problematic. These are often multiplayer, where you play with your friends or people you don't know. Why is that concerning? Well, it's highly social. So kids may be more apt to play a video game with their friends than want to go to soccer practice or go just play out at the park or what have you. And then we have information overload, which is like YouTube video watching, spending a lot of time watching videos, Netflix, Amazon Prime, reading information online. A lot of adults fall into this trap, reading political news. I mean, there's nothing to read there really. It's pretty boring these days. Science, sports, what have you. Compulsive spending, what we often see with our young people is spending in video games. They somehow manage to get a credit card on file, and then next thing you know, they have a lot of microtransactions that are occurring while they play video games. In particular, free downloads like Fortnite, Minecraft, some of the others will push your kid hard to start spending money in games. So just reminder, free downloads, stay away from those. I'd rather you pay for the game and then don't store your credit card in the system. We have social media. We all know what that is. Pornography. This is an issue that a lot of kids deal with that parents often don't hear about it. If you're on the internet and there are no guardrails, you are bound to come across this. It's a matter of time. Like I said in the first talk, the porn sites are the most visited out of any websites on the internet. So they do a darn good job with their algorithms and getting us to venture in their direction. So that gives you an idea of the 5 types. We use the term digital media overuse because with kids, we don't view it as an addiction. We view it through the lens of an impulse control problem. When boundaries are set, when guardrails are set, when limits are set, kids recover so quickly. It's unbelievable when that happens. The first couple days is bumpy, but then next thing you know, they're like, what? Fortnite? Who cares? Actually, they don't do that. But eventually they do. It's kind of amazing over a bit of time. So that's why we use digital media overuse. You may hear us reference that tonight. That gives you an idea of that language. So as another recap, I want to talk about the important reminders that we want to make sure you're implementing before your child has ownership over their own device, like a smartphone, or they're playing these highly immersive apps like I showed you on their own without you sitting next to them. The key areas are development of foundational skills, social. We want to know that they can manage social okay. They can talk to others. They can understand social cues, nonverbal cues. They're engaging face-to-face. Communication skills are something they're working on and they're at their age appropriate skill wise. They're coping with their overwhelm and frustration and feelings by not using tech. They have other ways of coping and managing their stress. Executive functioning skills, really, really important. This matters in every area of our life. And if this part of our brain isn't developing at an important pace that we need to see it develop at, kids are going to struggle a great deal in all areas of their life, not just academically. So impulse control is in the prefrontal cortex. When we play fast-paced video games, the blood flow in our brain changes. It just sits right in our emotional center and bypasses this part. So kids can't get off when you tell them to get off. Okay, Joey, you have 15 minutes to play Fortnite. Get off when it's time. They literally can't. Not when they're on apps like that, okay? And especially for children. Movement, physical activity, we want to make sure they have a number of anchors in their week where they're getting out of the house, they're playing, they're engaging, they're on a sports team, or they're just free roaming, which is really healthy for kids. Next, focus on responsible behaviors. I always encourage parents before you hand over a smart device or you let them start engaging in apps that can be problematic, that they're showing you they can be responsible in important life management areas. Are they doing chores? We know kids around 5 and 6 and older can do 1 chore a day. They really can. And have them, I know, it's kind of incredible. It might be clearing the table or emptying the dishwasher with you, and it might be a co-doing chores with them. We want to see that if they have homework, they're able to prioritize that, obviously, with your support. We see that they're managing their sleep routine well. They're going to bed on time. They're getting up. There are not screens in the bedroom. And self-regulation and impulse control, 2 really important areas. If your child doesn't have impulse control, let's say they have ADHD or emotional dysregulation issues, they really shouldn't have a smart device, nor should they be playing certain applications because they're at higher risk for those to become more and more habitual because of the novelty seeking brain. They seek that stimulation, bless you, and the dopamine release. Bless you. Device is used as a tool primarily. So if we could roll back the clock and know what we know now, we would be teaching everybody before they buy a smart device or a smart a laptop or what have you, and giving it to their child, that we teach them how to use it as a tool first. It's not used to play video games or for social media. And we know with laptops and what have you being used in schools, we really want to teach them how to use it as a tool for that. And then secondary, maybe you have some fun on it. Okay. And then we want to make sure you're prepared when you introduce devices and apps, that you know how to set up the digital guardrails. You feel confident, you feel clear before you hand over the device. Here's exactly what I need to do. And by gosh, I know exactly what's going on if I don't see any data showing up on my dashboard from my parental app. And I know what they're doing. And she's going to tell you all about it tonight, aren't you, Savannah?
Yeah.
It's going to be great. Okay. So digital guardrails are really important. It supports cognitive development. And like I just said, fast-paced video games like Fortnite and Call of Duty, if played too often and too much, they do impact our attention, concentration, and focus. There's something called situational ADHD that often we see with people. Looks just like ADHD, but when we have them go through neuropsych testing, we remove devices, we have a period of time where there's no fast-paced media, we actually see those symptoms reside. Or in kids with ADHD, we see their symptoms decrease a great deal. So there are certain types of video games and certain kinds of media we want to make sure we're not putting, offering to our children to engage in, if those are issues for them. The digital guardrails prevent violence and traumatic content from being seen. As I mentioned before, the kids are being exposed to a lot of violent, disruptive, concerning media. So natural disasters, mass shootings, there's a number of incidences going on around the world that are really scary. And kids don't have a sense of security yet in their life. They count on us. And when they're on devices and they see this content, research is actually showing us that they're developing post-traumatic stress symptoms, even if the event's happening in Florida and they live in Colorado. So their brain are just not able to cope with that type of information quite yet, unless they're sitting there watching it with you and you can have that discussion with them and say, here's what's going on. You're safe. There's not going to be a hurricane that has 175-mile-an-hour winds here in Boulder, Colorado. So if you can talk with them about it, they'll feel a lot better. But if they're on a smartphone with social media and nobody is there to help guide them through that, that can cause unnecessary hurt to them. Social media sites that we worry about for kids are Instagram and TikTok. We would rather there be limits or no use whatsoever. They do have rules that you really have to be 13 and older to use them. That's there for a reason. Most kids who are 13 really shouldn't be on those apps. Do you agree, Ben?
I agree with you. It's very difficult to detect or enforce.
Well, that's why you're here tonight. Yes, we'll do our best to help with that. Prevents or minimizes cyberbullying. And we know that one culprit of this is Snapchat, not a social media or a communication app that we like at all at the center, only because it's hard to track as a parent. And there are a lot, your child can be invited to all kinds of different types of communication on there by people who aren't part of your approved list. Now, if you take certain measures and certain steps, you can definitely clamp that down, but there's no need for Snapchat, especially for elementary age kids. And if you have questions about that, we can talk about that more. Online predators, this is a big deal. This is happening more and more. The FBI reports that 50% of kids who are targeted by online predators are between the age of 12 and 15. And that's a primary age group that is being targeted for grooming and manipulation. And so the sites that we often see where this kind of behavior happens is through the chat apps. And there's lots of them out there, like iMessage. Kick is a really popular one amongst teenagers. These are free downloads, so you may not even know your child has it unless you put digital guardrails on, and there's a way to stop that from happening. There's like over 50 different types of chat apps out there. Discord has actually been in mainstream media more and more. It's a social media site that we've been really worried about for a long time. A lot of kids who play video games are on Discord. Okay, they have their server, they have their group, they talk about playing video games, but there's a lot more happening on that site. There's a lot of bad actors, and that's hard to manage and it's hard to regulate as a parent. We want to block sexually explicit content, Pornhub, believe it or not, Reddit. So if you go to Reddit, which is a discussion website like Quora, and you type in sexy woman, big boobs, whatever you want to do, next thing you know, it takes you to a pornographic page. Try it out. So if your son or daughter, or they're curious and they're just typing in content, they can find themselves into pornographic sites. And we also see 4chan. How many of you have heard of 4chan? So when there are mass shootings, we often hear about 4chan. This is where their manifestos are posted. This is where they go and talk about their preparation for mass shootings. This is where they're egged on. It is not a website that is moderated very well, and kids often find their way to it through Reddit if they're in a rabbit hole and they spend a lot of time there. And you can go to 4chan and you can find all kinds of information on there that it's really inappropriate. So be aware of that site. So we know that applications are created to change the way we think, feel, and act. Okay. And so is the smartphone. Digital guardrails are going to protect your child all around, emotionally, mentally, developmentally, going to keep them safe. So tonight's talk is extremely important. YouTube is the biggest culprit when it comes to changing the way you think, feel, and act. There are two issues I see that come into the center with more significant treatment concerns: YouTube and video games. They go hand in hand often and cause the most issues. YouTube for kids sounds great. You can set up an account. You can clamp it down. I recommend you do that, not just let them use the regular YouTube general account, okay, like the adult account. YouTube for kids can still have a lot of issues. People are figuring out how to get into different videos and change graphics and make them really scary, and we definitely don't want that. Yes.
If you don't know what the YouTube Kids, if you don't know what the YouTube Kids site is, it's actually, they have a moderator group that individually reviews every video. So you don't get random videos that people upload. It actually has to be approved by a human being.
Well,
Which is not perfect.
and they do, but I think if I'm the stats right, 400 new videos are uploaded every minute on YouTube for kids. So it's hard for moderators to really manage that. You and I, yeah. YouTube for kids. Okay, let's talk about that. Ben and I, we go way back. All right, so I just want to give you an idea of some of the key websites that we keep an eye on, the different apps, and do your homework with YouTube for kids. And Ben's right, they moderate it more, but a lot still slides through and slips through. And know that Google is the parent company of YouTube. So if you go onto Google Chrome and you're Googling all kinds of information, and then you go to YouTube, they're going to populate that information onto YouTube. So be aware of that as well. So what I'm going to do before I hand it off to Savannah is we've created some resources here. We'll make sure that you can get the slide deck. So you don't have to remember all of this. There's a number of books that have been vetted. The top 3 websites are amazing, research backed. These people know what they're doing. Free webinars, parent trainings, lots of great resources on these websites. I know Melanie Hemp very well, who is Screen Strong, and Chris Rowan. They literally will engage with you when you reach out, and they're just exceptional people in the work that they do. We have Boulder-based therapeutic and educational resources. If you ever do run into difficulties with your child acting out in certain ways, if you're trying to set limits, obviously we have the center that we're here to represent. We have a more general psychotherapy practice called Strive Psychotherapy that works with all ages. And that's more for anxiety, depression. Maybe there's some overuse issues, but the therapists there understand that really well as well. And then another service that's mostly high school and older is collegiate coaching. They also work with screen-based behaviors, teaching students how to become use tech as a tool and do a good job in the classroom as well. All right, so I cruised through that because I wanted to leave most of the time for Savannah tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to her.
Thank you, Tracy.
Of course, here you go.
Thank you. Thank you. See you. Okay. Nice. All right. I'm going to keep the talking stick up here. So if anybody does have any questions, I'll pass it over to you. As Tracy said, I'm just kidding. Ben is going to have the talking stick. So as Tracy said, my name is Savannah. I'm here to represent DTAG, Digital Media Overuse, as well as Collegiate Coaching, which is the affiliate company. First, before I jump into the programs that I'm going to talk about and some different applications that I'm going to recommend, I want everybody to either close your eyes or lower your gaze. Think back to when your child, young adult, wherever they are age-wise right now, began to ride a bike. What did the bike look like? What did the surroundings look like? Really envision this. You are there right now. All right, go ahead and open your eyes. Now, no. Was this? What was happening? Right? Probably not. More than likely looked a little bit more like this. The same practice can and should be applied for your child when they're starting to use smart devices, phones, smartwatches, Alexa, computers, Chromebooks, iPads, the list goes on and on. Something that I'm going to probably repeat myself multiple times tonight is that applications are not a substitute for parental involvement. And it's imperatively important to have an open and honest conversation with your child about online safety and responsible digital media and device usage. Before I jump into some of the recommendations of training wheels, why is it even important to have training wheels? Some things to consider. Is your child developmentally ready for a smart device? Is your child's mental health stable and able to handle a smart device? Is your child being bullied at school, in the neighborhood, at home? Has your child visited any porn sites with their smartphones, smart devices? Has your child been exposed to violence? Are you as a parent ready to have these conversations with your child? And do you know the applications that they're using? I recommend that you have some of these hard conversations with your children before you introduce a device into their life, as they're going to have access to all of this. Some language that I'm also going to be using throughout tonight is the 3 different types of parental controls. First, we have monitoring. which is the process of observing and tracking the online activities. This is usually through a software or a third-party tool that's designed to, again, capture and report on the activities. Websites visited, social media activity, online searches, location tracking. Again, the main goal is to provide you all with visibility into your child's online activities. Next is filtering, which involves blocking access to specific online content that you have deemed as either inappropriate or harmful for your child. The primary goal would be to prevent access of these websites and or content. And then finally, we have management and control, which refers to the ability to control the internet access in a more comprehensive way. So this includes setting time limits on internet usage, blocking specific apps or games, and restricting access to, again, certain types of content. So some examples that I'm going to recommend for these training wheels are the Gab phone, a Bark phone, and a Gab watch too. So you as a parent need to be prepared to manage and, again, monitor these smart devices to ensure safety and security. If you do not feel that either your child's ready or you're ready for that, these could be a really great replacement for a smart device. Why not work on developing a little bit more cognitive control or ability for impulse control by introducing some of these training wheels? It also allows your child to work on really important foundational skills: social communication, healthy coping mechanisms, again, movement, as Tracy was mentioning too, free range play. So for the Gab phone, functionality, it is a very basic phone designed for calling, texting, taking pictures, and you can have some media download, so music. There's no access to the internet. There's not even an application that you can add to have access to the internet. No social media applications or games. You can't download any applications on this. The targeted audience is primarily kids and teens who need a phone for emergencies and basic communication, but also those who are developing their cognitive decision-making and practicing impulse control. They have a built-in Gab monitoring that cannot be tampered with. Kids, for instance, can delete text messages, but parents would be alerted and you can see the text messages that were deleted. The Gab phone has parental controls that, again, focus on limiting screen time, promoting digital well-being. Monitoring, filtering, and management and control are all included of this. This is a more affordable option, depending on which version of the phone you get. They have a very basic flip phone, remember those days, and these two different options of a smart device, ranging from 119 to 159. Next is the Bark phone. The Bark phone is essentially a smart device. It has internet access. And whenever you as a parent feel like it's appropriate to add, you can add additional applications, again, such as social media, email, web browsing, music streaming. The targeted audience, again, is for parents who feel that you want to give your child the opportunity to start practicing with a smartphone that has safety features and parental controls already built in for online safety. Again, software can't be tampered with. You can delete text messages, but only with permission. The parental controls are designed to, again, monitor, filter online activity and protect kids from cyberbullying, online predators, and other internet dangers. There's a GPS-powered location tracking that you can also gradually take away, like I said, these restrictions as they get older if you feel appropriate. The Bark phone price is $49.99 per month. And then the final training wheels that we're going to recommend is the Gab Watch 2. There's unlimited talk and voice and preset text messages, i.e., on my way, got it. They have a step counter, and there's no internet access and social media access. Targeted audience, again, is children learning to manage a smartwatch. The parental controls are really great because there's also a lock mode feature that would only offer the watch face, and you can't go into the watch, mess around with, different settings, or, oh, I wonder what mom had texted me earlier in the day. You can completely just make it be a watch. GPS tracking and SOS emergency notification that would be sent to the parent's phone. Price would be $159.99. So I'm going to be reviewing 2 of the best that we feel recommended applications and third-party softwares to help support healthy digital media use and approaches on how to add these on their devices. We could take questions now.
Okay, great. I'm curious how, my kids are too young for this, but I'm curious, like what age do you see parents starting to introduce things like the Gab phone?
Mhm.
And then for older kids, I would imagine that the word is out that Gab is a very locked down piece of hardware. And how have you seen parents successfully positioning and framing a device like the Gab phone for their kids so that they actually use it?
Yeah, really, really great questions. The first one is hard to answer because it really depends on the child. Again, are they cognitively, developmentally ready for something like that? Are they also, do they have impulse control issues? If you say no, do they, like Tracy mentioned, punch a hole in the wall? Or they're like, okay, got it, understood, right? So that is a hard age to kind of narrow down and give you like a specific number. And that would be something too that you and the family would have to sit down and kind of identify. For the Gab phone specifically, that's where a really important conversation of transparency and honesty is going to have to be put into play. And something that I would recommend too is that you identify the reasonings, right? This is why we're doing this. And these are the steps for if you do eventually want to have something like, an iPhone or even the Bark phone too. You got to show that you are responsibly able to achieve this. So even some of the recommendations when adding limitations are to even create SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. With that, that's where the conversation of like, all right, what is the purpose of this? Why are we doing this? To promote healthy digital media use, as well as using your technology as a tool versus entertainment, versus a coping skill, right? Versus an avoidance mechanism. A SMART goal could be throughout the summer, I'll use parental control features on my child's smartphone device or smart device rather to limit screen time to no more than 2 hours per day with no access to meal times and after 8 p.m. in order to promote healthier habits, improving sleep hygiene. So the goal is specific, limit screen time, measurable, tracking the hours, achievable, using the parental controls, realistic, promoting a healthier lifestyle, time bound, reevaluating at the end of the school year. Something too that we would recommend by adding some of these training wheels is what we call a family agreement. In the family agreement, we at the center support families implementing this on a very frequent basis. The family creates a goal for the agreement, the family, parents, and the young adult, with attached expectations and consequences. And this is where the SMART goals can help inform the overall arching goals. Then you have a negotiation period where that's when your child, if it is age and developmentally appropriate, can also identify their own goals, right? You are also providing them an opportunity to identify their values, right? What are their goals during this negotiation period? Again, if it's developmentally appropriate. And in this negotiation period, this is also where you as a parent can identify your non-negotiables, right? I.e., no tech in the bedroom. If there's anywhere to begin, that's somewhere where we very much recommend all families to do no tech in the bedroom. And then after the negotiation meeting is complete, you as a family schedule a weekly meeting to discuss on how the family agreement is going, talking through the struggles, right? Listening, validating with one another. As I said, at the center, we work with these on a very frequent basis. And I recommend having a third-party individual supporting you with creating these, as it also allows someone to hold you as parents accountable to be consistent. We see a lot of success with this. Next would be being honest and transparent. So this is where, again, if you are to add any limitations on any devices, gotta let your kids know first before adding the limitations, right? As well as on the flip side, if your kid is trying to get around some type of blockage because they're so smart, they're creative, they see a puzzle, they want to go after it, I get it. But if you see or notice something, that's when, hey, Jimmy, got to have a conversation. This is what I'm seeing, right? And that shows too, on their part, responsibility wise, are they able to handle the smart device? And then finally, do not change any of the limitations on the fly, right? Have a conversation about it, revisit the conversation. And it's really important to hold your own boundaries, right? So if, let's say, your child comes up to you, there's a free application, it's Candy Crush, it's absolutely amazing, all the kids are playing it. Okay, let's have a conversation about it. We'll review it in a week or so. We'll see pros and cons, red and yellow flags about this, and then we'll revisit again, right? So that also teaches your child like, oh, mom's going to be consistent on this, right? So if push, 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 you hold firm, they're going to learn that behavior. So the first application and software that I'm going to talk about is Custodio Parental Control. I'm going to kind of give a quick breakdown of some of the features that it has, and then I'm going to do a walkthrough of, like, kind of took screen grabs of it and a walkthrough of what features and what it looks like. So as I said, Custodio is a third-party application and that you would download on your child's devices. There is web filtering feature that can block access to specific websites that you, again, have deemed inappropriate or harmful for your child. The software uses predefined categories to determine which websites should be blocked, and I'll go through those categories. There's screen time management that parents can set limits to your child's internet usage, including individual applications and scheduled specific times that internet is allowed or completely blocked on the devices. Monitoring reports and monitors on the online activities, such as, again, websites visited, social media activity, and online searches. It also sends real-time alerts to you as parents if there's anything inappropriate content-wise that has been detected. They offer application control that you can just completely block access to specific applications, games that you have, again, deemed as inappropriate or harmful for your child. They have location tracking, a panic button, and cyberbullying prevention. Oh. We will get there. What was the question? How do you block cyberbullies from the third-party app is the question. And they have the built-in software that, let's say, specific language that is detected, you get alerted.
It's often sensitive language. So you might get alerted. This is when the kids get frustrated because I didn't write anything in that was about bullying, but it does pick it up. It's enough to warn you and give you a heads up on it. The bottom line is it lets the child know that these things will be sent to you. So it creates inhibition. It helps the child go, maybe I need to tell mom about this, or maybe I shouldn't do that because she'll be alerted.
Yes. It'll alert that. Yeah. Yeah. The question was, will it alert if your child is the bully, if your child is sending the inappropriate content? Yes, Custodio will alert that. So as I said, this is the login page. Familiar with it. And then this is the dashboard, the home page, rather. This is where if you decide for multiple children in the household, they'll all show up right here. Over to the top right, it'll also show the devices that Custodio is downloaded on. Here's the dashboard that you will see has, you can click anywhere from a singular day. So the screen grab is actually from January 3rd. And you can click anywhere from a singular day, a 7-day average, a 15-day average, and a 30-day average. Additionally, by clicking on the date drop-down box, you can navigate anywhere since Custodio was installed on any of the devices. Below to the top or bottom, right, where it says blocked, that's where if your child tries to get onto any applications, games on their devices, including any websites as well, it'll pop up right there. So for instance, we had installed Custodio on a young adults app or device, and they were really trying to figure out what it can do on the first day. And I think within an 5 hours, Facebook tried, I think it was like 128 times. So it'll also show the amount of times that something is trying to be accessed.
And I don't know if anybody asked this yet, but this Custodio is available both for desktops as well as for mobile devices. You can have the same thing for your Mac and your phone and your tablet, and I think Chromebooks too, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yep.
Well, and they've developed it now for schools, which I'm really excited about. I've noticed it's newer where schools can purchase this rather than what they're using, because a lot of the BBSDs using it isn't very effective.
Mhm.
Delete the app from their phone.
I will answer this.
Okay.
I think from what I remember is apps like this also show the user like a little icon in the corner or something that it's always running, right? And that way, that's how they prevent people from just using it as like spyware or something, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But you can also, I recommend showing it on the, on the child's device, you can block hide, or you can have hide or show. I recommend showing because it also, if you, for instance, add screen time limits to it, which I'll show you how to do in a moment, it'll show the amount of time that is allotted left. So it also promotes some executive functioning and monitoring skills for the child to develop. So let's say they have, I'll get there. Okay, so it also shows screen time by the hour. So for instance, this individual was up a little bit too late, woke up in the morning, etc. In the timeline, you have the capacity to see where and when your child was on what and for how long. So if you see something that you would like to be alerted via email, you can click on one of the 3 buttons right there, and this will pop up. And you can either say allow, alert me, block, or ignore. If it's something, again, that you're like, oh, they've been on TikTok for a little bit too long, or I don't recommend using TikTok, but if that's something that you do want to have an allowance for, and you're noticing, oh, they've been on for hours and hours and hours, you can have an alert me, or again, you can completely block it. And then this is the rule section that has web filtering, games and apps, daily time limits, restricted times, locations, calls, messages, panic button. And they have a whole entire section for YouTube because YouTube is just that special. Here's the web filtering. And this is where you can navigate allowances for your child. They have 19 different categories. Violence and weapons, pornography, gambling, social network and messaging, which includes chat rooms, video sharing platforms, that is like Vimeo, YouTube, games, all games. So there's like this one game, Slither.io, that a lot of kids like to play. You can completely block that as well. Alcohol, tobacco, and drugs, explicit language, dating, shopping, sports, religion, news and media, arts and entertainment, business, health, travel, education, and file sharing. There's also an other category to where you can include any additional websites or applications that don't fall in the above categories. And you can block specific websites too. So again, those three buttons, you can click, completely block, or you can either alert me.
Savannah.
Yeah.
So, but what Savannah said earlier about like technology not being a replacement for active parenting is super important with this kind of stuff. A lot of times, maybe your teen wants to learn about breast cancer or something, and
Mhm.
like, oh, nope, that's not allowed according to the software. So you need to have real conversations with your kids about this stuff. Like, it's not perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Ben. Absolutely. For whatever reason,
Use the arrows on the right.
which,
might help.
right. There we go. All right. It just needed Ben to walk a little closer. So for example, this individual had some alert me notifications websites and completely blocked websites too. So this was what it would look like. Again, here's if you want to add a specific website: alert, block, ignore, allow. For daytime limits, you have the capacity to have a specific allotted time to all of the devices. So for instance, if you have 3 hours and 45 minutes, that's if you have Custodia on all of their devices, iPad, Kindle, phone, and computer, it would be 3 hours and 45 minutes across all of those devices. No, I wish, not on the Xbox. Xbox does have some parental controls, so I could have a TED talk on that one. But if you decide 1 hour in totality of, again, the Chromebook, not iPhone, and the limit is hit on both of the devices will block, and you cannot open applications unless an allowance is made from the parent account. You also have the chance to decide limits on each day of the week. For consistency's sake, I would recommend having a flat number throughout the 7 days of the week. This is also a really great tool to support your child with developing better understanding and awareness of time management skills and overall executive functioning skills. These two lock navigation and lock device buttons are also really important to click over. Otherwise, if, let's say, the device isn't locked, internet use would be completely blocked, but they would still be able to scroll through. Let's say they screen grabbed a bunch of fan fiction and they really want to read this fan fiction. They would still be able to go through all of that. And then here is where you can have designated restricted times for your child. So for instance, if you feel like tech time is okay from 4 to 8 p.m., you can restrict the devices to that time. Outside of the designated time, the devices will be locked up, similar to when the daytime limit is hit. Here's the YouTube. Again, Custodia wanted to have a very specific YouTube page. And this is where you as a parent can set up YouTube monitoring by linking your child's YouTube account to their Custodia account. This allows Custodia to also monitor the videos that your child is watching and flag if there's any inappropriate content that is coming up. And games and applications, you can set a specific game allotted time to specific applications. So if you click on those 3 buttons again, this will pop up. And if you want to only allow, let's say, 2-hour overall limit on all of the devices, but you only want 30 minutes on Spotify, you can have that be part of the overall restrictions and application rules. And then there's calls and messaging. So the calls and messaging monitoring allows parents to view call logs and text messages sent and received on the child's device. There's contact list monitoring as well, that you can, again, view the contacts. You can block any specific contacts that you don't want messaging your child, as well as allow specific contacts. And there's application monitoring, where again, Custodio will monitor the messages in the messaging applications, including, let's say, Instagram, WhatsApp, iMessage are some of the popular ones. You can also completely block specific, like I said, contacts and phone numbers from calling or messaging from your child's device. So to be mindful of time. Okay. Location tracking, the parents first have to install the Custodio app on your child's device to enable location tracking. And once enabled, Custodio will periodically update the child's location and display it on the map on the parent's Custodio account. So like I said, I'll explain in a little bit, but on your child's devices, they'll have their own Custodio app, and then there's a parent Custodio app. Green is parent, blue is child. Periwinkle. And then there's a panic button. So here is where you can choose which plan is right for your family. Custodio does offer a free plan, but it does not come with a lot of the things that I was just talking about, including app restrictions and the daytime limits. We normally recommend the small plan, the 5 devices, but it really is dependent on your family. So this is where you would purchase the Custodio. And here is the kids Custodio app. Like I said, the parents app is the green one, and that's where you set it up on the devices. And then the purple one is the kids one. You can find it on Android devices as well as all iOS systems. All right. I'm going to jump into the next recommendation, which is screen time on the iPhone. How do they not delete the app from the phone? That'll be on this one here. Thank you.
So are you saying that these two really should be together?
Yes. Yes.
Ideally.
Ideally.
Okay.
So why screen time is often a question that is asked, because I know there's also Android users. Android does have digital well-being, which is very similar to screen time, but screen time is much more user-friendly and very, very effective. There's no way around it unless you have the specific passcode. And Custodio and screen time are really effective together. It's a catch-all.
So the kids app goes on their phone.
So the question was, does the kids app go on the kids phone and the parent app goes on the parent phone? Yes, exactly. So the green app would go on the parent phone and the purple app would go on the child's phone. You set up the account via the parent app, and then you log on from the parent, or using the parent login information on the child's device. So again, I'll give a really brief breakdown of screen time, and then I'll jump into further details. So there's downtime offered on the screen time, which only allows applications that you choose to allow, and phone calls that you choose from contacts that you choose to be sent to the phone. There's application limits that, again, you can choose from a vast list that I'll jump into. Communication limits that apply to phone, FaceTime, messages, iCloud contacts, and the passcode. The passcode is created for accessing screen time settings and making changes, including deleting applications. So you would need the passcode to be able to go around screen time to delete or monitor any type of applications.
To keep them from guessing the passcode. I mean, literally.
To get better at.
Oh,
I mean-
wow, it's also,
I think they have an app that tells them how to break the code. I'm not kidding.
That's where, again, that conversation of honesty and transparency would really come into play, as well as that family agreement. Let's say, all right, Susie, if you go around any of the passcodes, or if I identify, or if it comes out that you're going through, then the consequence is that you're not going to have any of your smart devices. That is the expectation, that you do not go through any of these things, as what we're trying to do is promote and optimize your well-being using a device for a tool, not for entertainment. Could be a conversation to be had.
One more quick question.
Yeah.
about that. Is it the same as the one that opens your phone or closes it?
No, the question was, is the passcode the same as opening up the iPhone? It is not the same. It would be two separate passcodes. Yeah, the question was, is it, what's the integration of the Android devices and Chromebooks? That's where the digital well-being application comes into play. So screen time is only for iOS devices, including, again, iPad, iPod, all the phones, I think, including, yes, actually including the watch as well.
I think the digital well-being is a big part of it, but that's more for your own device. If you want a family system, there's an app called Family Link for Android and Chromebook, and that's what is very close to screen time in terms of having a parent have control.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If you're not speaking in the mic, then the online people can't hear you.
Just to reiterate,
So-
you're saying you have to have a passcode, the same one-time app passcode to delete the app from my kid would.
Yes.
Okay.
So let's say you have QStudio on the Apple device. The kid wants to delete QStudio from the Apple device. You would have to first log into QStudio to delete the app. You then would have to second have the screen time passcode to also delete the app. That's where partnered together, screen time and QStudio are really beneficial. It's a catch-all.
And I want to add, we work with young people who been there, done it. Okay. They've hacked our Facebook page. I mean, every time something goes wrong with our website, I'm like, which client of ours did that? Okay. So what we're presenting is foolproof as long as you do your part. And that's usually where the hiccup happens, is on the parent side. It is, and we know, and that's why we offer the information about the other devices, because we're like, if you can't oversee the device and your child continues to find ways around it, we probably need to backtrack a little bit and change some things up, and they'll be okay.
Mhm.
And it is true, and this is where we come in when we help with the moderation piece, the mediation piece, and helping you set up really clear expectations and consequences. So, Susie, if you get around this again and delete this app, you're going to lose your smartphone for 5 days. No questions asked. That's a big consequence. And parents always cope with that. Usually parents have concerns about that first. What happens? I can't get a hold of them. What about this? What about that? It always goes well. And then it takes 1 or 2 times for the child to realize, wow, mom, dad really mean it. And that's where we're saying parents have to have a lot of involvement in this. And I'm really sorry. This is hard work.
Mhm.
I feel for you. It is hard, extremely hard. And that's why there's a business created because of this. So hang in there with this.
Mhm. Yeah, not only are you parents, but you're also detectives in a sense too. It is a lot of responsibility. Any other questions about the passcode? Yeah.
My question wasn't so clear there. So Custodio integrates the same way with Family Link as it does with Screen Time. So
Let me clarify. Are you saying
so I just wanted to make, so for example, I have a lot of Android devices or
Yeah.
Chromebooks and I'm using Family Link. And right now you're advertising that, not advertising, but saying there's that Custodio can work in combination with Screen Time.
Yeah.
And therefore this passcode. And I'm wondering, do you have the same integration in combination with Family Link?
It's a really good question. I don't
Okay.
know Family Link as well.
I see the internet saying a little bit, but I was just wondering if you know. If not, I'll research that. That's totally fine. Thank you.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask again about the how it notifies and informs the user that it's running, just for like privacy concerns. Like, what's to prevent someone from installing this on like their spouse's phone or something, right? Like, the
Mhm.
user has to know that it's running. So I thought by law you're required for privacy reasons to inform on any device when something like this is running. No, I thought you just said you could hide it or something like that.
You could, if let's say there's a daily limit, right, that's set on Custodio, you could hide the limit, but at the top right corner of the device, it always says that little
Like
purple key.
Custodio's running.
Yeah,
That's what I was
exactly.
wondering. Okay,
Exactly. Yeah.
thank you.
Let's see. Yeah, yeah. Yes. And then the screen time has the daily, weekly screen average, very similar to Custodio. Okay. The passcode. So when setting up screen time, you will be prompted to create a passcode, and the passcode will be needed to allow more time on applications, right? So this little thing will come up. They'll say, you want more time, you got to put in the passcode, right? You want 15 more minutes, 1 more minute, right? So it also is needed for installing, deleting applications, and for in-app purchases. So you would need the iCloud passcode, as well as this passcode to get through in-app purchases. This is, again, really important to be sure that this code is only for you to know, and where the honesty and transparency piece with your child comes into play. During downtime, the iPhone allows you to restrict certain applications or functions during that specific time period. So you can schedule in custom days. Again, for consistency's sake, I would recommend placing this on every day, and you can choose designated downtime from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. Let's say they get a call from their best friend at 9 p.m. That wouldn't be sent through the device until the morning that they would get that notification that so-and-so had called. Downtime also allows or sends a notification 5 minutes before the application or downtime turns on, as well as it gives a reminder about an hour before it's going to turn on for bedtime. You can also choose which applications are always allowed and enable passcode to override downtime if needed. And then the application limits. You can choose, I'm just going to let this run and then I'll repeat it a couple of times. How you would add limits. Okay, so you can choose from a vast list, right? If you want to add the limit, here's the passcode, you enter in the passcode. You can choose from the list, again, from social, games, entertainment, creative, productivity, finance, education, you name it. The one caveat about screen time is that there's no complete block feature. you can restrict it to a 1-minute time frame. And that's where Custodio steps in if you want to completely block something from the device. I think I saw a hand raised, but. So you would select whichever applications. Oops, that's over. Okay. You would select whatever applications, you would set that time limit. So right now it's all applications are selected for 45 minutes. And then you click add at the top right corner, and then it's set. Communication limits. So this limits apply to phone, FaceTime, messages, and iCloud contacts. Communication to known emergency numbers identified by your carrier as well as yourself through this application can be and always allowed. You can also select contacts only, contacts and groups with at least one individual being in contact and everyone. Additionally, you can create a limit during the designated downtime, which it can identify, let's say, mom calls past 9 p.m., which is past the downtime, they will have that call go through. And then content and privacy restrictions. So this is a beefy one. You can have, again, app restrictions that you can block or limit specific applications on the iPhone, including searching within the App Store. So let's say you don't want any social media on the iPhone. You can completely just not have that as an option or not have it be able to be installed unless, again, you have the passcode. Gaming, messaging apps, also web content, and you can filter the web content to limit access to adult websites or other inappropriate content. You can additionally filter completely to only allow 3 websites if you choose, right? PBS Kids could be one, what have you. And additionally, there's also Siri dictation that you can prevent access to different sensitive information, explicit language that if you asked a question to Siri, Siri would respond with it. There's media content, which again, you can restrict access to explicit music, podcasts, and other media content with explicit language or adult themes. There's privacy settings where you can control the location, or you can rather have location services through the different applications that can track location services completely blocked. The contacts, you can have the passcode be, if you want to add a contact, you would have to have the passcode to enter it in. Photos and any other personal information. And then finally, the daily and weekly screen time average. The report breaks down the screen time average by categories of social, games, entertainment, creativity, and productivity. It shows the total amount of screen time used in that, again, day or week, and when and what categories. It also lists the most used applications and how many times the device was picked up and when it was picked up, along with the, again, most frequently used applications after you picked up the phone itself. The other really important piece, and I recommend also adding screen time to your own devices, is that it shows how many notifications is received and from what notification. Or from what application. It's really important to be mindful of that for brain power and even distractibility, as this one, for instance, studies have showed it takes almost about 23 minutes for you to refocus on the designated task. If you're getting pinged by, I think I recently checked 35 notifications in a 5-hour span from, I think it was Gmail. I was like, oh, that's really pulling a lot of my attention, right? So it can be helpful for, again, your child to build those time management skills, as well as executive functioning skills. I heard that there is a specific request in one of the past talks for parental controls on Alexa. So Alexa is the AI service and not the product that Amazon has. And then Echo is the physical device that is used to interact with Alexa. Alexa does have parental controls that you can set up by the primary account holder or parent. And these controls allow the parent to restrict certain Alexa features and content, time limits on usage, and filter explicit language, including media. So even for the time limits, for instance, if your child is doing their math homework and they ask Alexa, what's 5 + 5? Instead of doing their work, you can block that during math time. You would have to open the Alexa app on your mobile device, go to the menu and select settings. You tap on the account settings, Amazon household. And then once you've joined the created household, you can select the profile that you want to manage. You can select kids or teens. And then from there, you can choose the parental controls and settings that you want to apply on the device. Again, including content, filters, time limits, communication settings.
One thing to note about Alexa limits is that it's on the device. So even if you're mom or dad and you want to ask a question during downtime, it won't let you.
Yeah.
The Google devices actually recognize your voice and will let mom and dad get through, even if you say, oh, use the parental controls to say kids aren't allowed to watch YouTube videos or listen to music during homework time. They'll actually let mom and dad through.
I actually did not know that. Thank you, Ben. AI, they are really getting clever. Yeah, exactly. And neither is Alexa's parental controls. It's not foolproof.
I just had a related question, which is sharing my laptop with my child and putting all of these controls on my laptop. How will that affect? Can I do that? I mean, obviously I can do that, but then it'll like really restrict what I'm able to do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do you have any ideas about when you're sharing a device with a child?
Yeah. Most often, if you have the capacity to, we recommend having a designated device just for school for the child, because I'm assuming that the child's using the device for education and like researching stuff for school. So having a designated Chromebook that would have all of the lockdowns, because then it also teaches them like, oh, this is my school laptop. This is where I only do these things, right? It teaches them to use it as a tool versus, again, for entertainment purposes.
I think what I found when I'm logged into Google doing whatever I'm doing, those same things pop up on the other laptop because it's the same account. So in order for him to use Google, for example, he would have to have his own account. Otherwise, we would be influencing each other's stuff. Is that how it works?
Right.
I don't know anything about technology.
Yeah.
But that's what I gather. Okay.
Yeah.
So he would need his own account.
He would need his own account.
And someone will help me remember all the passwords.
I just add on what she was going to say? On the same, so if you have one device, then you can also partner that with Family Link and link it to the account and still use one device without having to buy another device. And you can have your controls, and then your child can have your control. And then you could even use Family Link and then partner it with this to have the additional controls.
It's like a part-time job.
It's a full-time job. Yeah. Oh, hold on.
Just one quick thing related to that. You can also just, like if you have your Google login for YouTube, you can just use that to log into all your kids' devices. And then when you look in your history, you can see all the videos they've been watching through that. So that's what we do. You can use your Google login on YouTube on all of your kids' devices. And then when you look at history, like on your own device, you can see the videos that your kids were watching. Because clearly, like you weren't watching like Lanky Box or something, right? So you know those are theirs, but it doesn't have their name associated with it. It's just under your account.
Fortunately, then you get all the commercials for Caillou and Bluey on your. That's good side effect.
Is there a place to go to have someone help you set or have someone come to your house to help you set all this up?
Yes.
Are we getting there?
Yes. You can, we do that. We do a lot of consultation if you want to come to the center, if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming, as well as I have a really impulsive child. I don't even know where to begin. We can help you with that.
Yeah. I mean, I am a little, but not like this.
Yeah.
Well, and it sounds really overwhelming.
Mhm.
And it sounds really overwhelming because we're throwing a lot of information at you. And I think that's for those of you who haven't introduced a device to your child yet that's their own, you're in a much better spot than those of you, your kids already have them. It's hard to backtrack, and that's effort. So what we recommend if you haven't introduced the device yet is you get up to speed and feel really good with these apps before you do that. And that's always one of our number one recommendations. Don't introduce it till you feel okay. Just like when kids learn to drive a car, they have to take a lot of classes, they have to drive so many hours before they can get their license. Smart devices shouldn't be any different as far as the detrimental effect that they can have on kids. So I know some of you have older kids and they already have their devices. And again, it's hard to backtrack, but if your child doesn't have one yet, just take your time. This isn't as complicated as it looks. It just takes some time to figure it out.
I hope this is not like. I have tried a lot of these things and it is exhausting and we fail a lot and it's a lot of systems and a lot of time. And it's like a whole thing.
Yeah.
And, but we're keeping trying. Hi, Haley. And, I'm just wondering, like, I mean, I have a middle schooler, I have an elementary school kid. What are your like top 5 things that we should be doing? I mean, I heard keep them out of the bedroom. That's great. I mean, we should have a parental app, with some downtime and some limitations, and we should be checking it. That's great. But like, if we can't commit to doing these systems, which do take a lot of time to implement, like, what are your top 5 or something?
Yeah.
I don't mean to like.
No, yeah.
Well, keeping devices out of the bedrooms, number one, because sleep is so critical. And having them plug them in outside, having no tech periods during the week and weekends where tech doesn't come to the dinner table, tech doesn't come to the backyard when we have a barbecue, and you just pick 2 or 3 of those times. Whatever you can uphold as well, because you're the most important role model in the home. Your tech use really will affect your child's. We see a direct relationship there. So parents also have to put their tech away and role model that. And yes, we absolutely, if you can, recommend a separate device for school that is only for academics. And then there's a device that they can use for entertainment if that's allowed. And usually we recommend a PC, a computer they can't carry and go hide. And they know mom or dad or whoever can walk behind them and see what they're doing at any time. So that's a recommendation. We do like a no tech environments, like a car is a great time not to have tech. I know that sounds weird, but kids are on tech so much that their brain is really fatigued. It's actually very fatiguing. It's not relaxing to be on tech. So a car ride's a great time to let your mind do mind wandering, as it's called, and it just floats. And it's a great time to relax and recover. That's why we want bedrooms without tech. So we recommend that as well. And it starts to teach really small, healthy habits. And you don't have to make a huge deal out of it. And don't use it as a reward. We recommend that tech time isn't a reward time. If you do your homework, I'll let you play this video game. We don't want a direct relationship because we build tolerance to rewards. And the more we use external reward systems to drive motivation and behavior, the more the child wants that. and they don't develop the intrinsic motivation. And screens are a slippery slope, especially when we see them get to college level. That's when we see the addiction really show up if they haven't learned how to cope in a healthy way without the screen and not use it as a reward. So there's a whole list for you. I can come up with more if you want.
Are you differentiating shows and movies with tech?
Anything on a screen is tech time. Now, if you have a big TV, your big TV that we all have in our houses now, and you're watching as a family, we call that pro-social tech time. That you're doing it with others and there's an end to it. So it might be a 2-hour movie and that's what you do on a Saturday night. We don't necessarily count that time. Okay. That's separate. All right.
All right. Okay. I'll cruise through some things to keep in mind. So a VPN is one way that a lot of these really tech savvy, very motivated students will try to get around some of these devices. Application. It is really very loud and clear. For instance, if QStudio isn't being tracked, right? Let's say it's on the device and all of a sudden, well, they haven't tracked any time in days, in hours, what have you, even if they're sitting right in front of you, they're on the device, it wouldn't be tracking. So this is where, again, the screen time or the digital well-being and Family Link comes in to catch all. Yes. Yes.
They caught it and alerted me.
Yeah.
So if anyone wants to change their internet provider, they caught, sorry, I don't know if you caught that. So they caught it.
I think the
Good
question was,
concept.
the comment was that their kid routed all their network through Romania and their internet service provider caught it because it looked suspicious. So
Yeah, don't start. But
And VPNs are all over the world, right? They're hosted everywhere and they usually cost about $7 a month.
yeah.
So somehow they have to find money to pay for it. Well, yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
Yes.
The intention behind it. What was the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But so the question, like this individual's employer requires them to have a VPN on their device, but that's again your device on your computer, right? So that's where it'd be important to separate the two.
VPNs are good.
Yes. And then quickly, another thing to be mindful of is incognito or private browsing, as this doesn't necessarily, it wouldn't track web content. However, QStudio is one of those applications, which is why we love it so much, that if it is on private browsing, QStudio will still track. Okay, so here are some of my recommended applications. As Tracy had mentioned before, we'll make sure that you have the slide deck. QStudio is on here, Screen Time, another application. Bark has software that you can download on the device, very parallel to QStudio, but again, they also offer the phone too. Gab, they only offer the phone that has the software on it. They don't have a third-party application that you can download. So finally, recommendation is the Sweet 16 is the smart tech scene. Wait until then to have a healthy teen. All right, we're gonna sing it together. I'll go and then you go, okay? All right. The sweet 16 is the smart tech scene. Wait until then to have a healthy teen. The sweet 16 is the smart tech scene. Wait until then to have a healthy teen. Awesome. All right, everybody.
We're trying to create a movement here.
We are the movement. Yeah.
Right? Like, take that one over. We don't agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, well, we wanted to say thank you to both Tracy and Savannah for being here. For anyone who wanted somebody else to see this presentation, it was recorded this time. We will have it up on the website later tonight or tomorrow at rocv.org/tech. And yeah, that's it. So thank you so much.